Hello and welcome back to my channel where I like to have fun with all things beauty while being critical about what I accept into my collection. Today I am doing a very impromptu test video and I'm also going to take the opportunity to talk about some of my Nomad Cosmetics palettes because I know that they are having a sale right now on two of their palettes. So I figured I might as well come on here and tell you what I think about them because I did just buy them because of this sale. So those two palettes are the Monteverde and the Safari palette. Now, I will say I have only used both of these palettes 2 times, so I am by no means ready to give a full review. But I can give you my initial thoughts, which are, from a formula standpoint, both of these are absolutely fine. I was a little bit nervous picking up the Safari palette because I had heard people talk about the shimmers being too hard pressed. I definitely felt like they were more hard pressed and drier than their newer palettes, but I didn't find that that really impacted the final result that much. So from a user's perspective, yeah, I wish the formula was a little bit different, but I'm all about the end result, and I don't feel like the end result was really affected by that. The Monteverde palette is less about formula because I think the formula is general consensus, good across the board. The mattes and the shimmers are fine. But for me, it was the color story that didn't really work out so much. I felt like I just didn't have light enough shimmers to highlight my inner corner that I prefer. To be honest, I felt very similar to the Safari palette. My problem was lack of light shimmers. The two lightest shimmers aren't that light, and because of that, I'm just never going to want to use these palettes on their own. I'm always going to want to reach for something else just to brighten up my eyes, just because that's my personal preference. I think with these two palettes, it really comes down to analyzing the color story and deciding whether or not it's a smart choice based on that and that alone. I think if you really like the color stories, the formulas are easy enough to work with that should not really be a deal breaker, unless you just feel very strongly about having creamier shimmers. To talk about price real quick, if you buy this by itself, it's 30% off. So their palettes would be about $29 each. If you buy them both together, they're 35% off, so they're more like $27 a piece. My big takeaway from this experience was that for $27, these were worth adding to my collection. Ever since the Keys palette came out, I've been a really big Nomad fan. I have to admit, prior to this palette, I just felt like they were okay. I always loved the theming. I love a theme. You know, I found that to be really fun, but I just felt like the shimmers were just okay. They weren't that special. Like, my first palette was Ghost Town USA, and I really liked this color story, but I felt like some of the shimmers were a little bit too creamy. So for me, I really like my shimmers to be somewhere in the middle. I don't like dry dusty, but I don't like too thick and creamy because I just don't find that to be the easiest to work with. And also, I feel like when a formula is too creamy, it's less sparkly, typically. I don't know if that's 100% true across the board, but I found that that's my biggest complaint with Adept. Like, their formula goes from so creamy to super thin, and I really prefer their thinner shades because I think the reflect is stronger. And I don't know, based off my experience with this palette, as much as I liked it and I loved the looks that I came up with from this, I wasn't running to get their latest release. Then I also got the Ireland palette, and again, I really liked this palette, but I felt like the shimmers were just okay. They were pretty, but they didn't do so much to stand out in my mind. So it really wasn't until this came along that got me to really fully commit and want to try more from them. The palette that I really wanted the whole time was the New Zealand palette, but this cost a little bit more money. So I wasn't really in the mood to spend that much, considering I felt sort of mid about the formula. Once I tried the Keys palette, though, I kind of knew that I was not going to be disappointed. And I was absolutely right. The formula of this is perfect. I think the mattes are perfect, the shimmers are perfect. It's just beautiful, and the duochromes are stunning. I feel like they're really easy to pick up on, and across the board, this just performs really well. I knew some of these cooler tone mattes was going to really make this palette stand out in my collection, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have it. It's what I have on my eyes today, and this is something that I'm excited to use. Just like with the Keys palette, I was excited to use this, I'm excited to use this one too. Now, a lot of that could just be my own personal preference, skin tone, whatever, but that's just how I feel. So, do I think anybody is going to be horribly disappointed if they pick these up? Not at 35% off. 30 or 35% off, I don't think you're going to be disappointed. If they weren't on sale though, I could absolutely live without them, and I would be totally fine with that as well. Okay, so now for the real reason I'm making this video. I finally got a microphone. I am so happy about that. I know that one of my biggest issues previously, even in my overhead videos, was the sound. It would come in and out, it was patchy, it was terrible. I bought a microphone, the microphone was not compatible with my phone, so it was a waste. I decided that I was just going to wait and make sure that I got a microphone that was compatible with my camera. So I finally got a camera. I got a Sony ZV-E10. I have no idea what I'm doing. I haven't touched a digital camera in 20 years. Yeah, it's seriously been since college. God, I don't even know. Yeah, I feel like I was using my phone in college, so maybe high school. I don't know. It's been a really long time. So, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm learning all of this from scratch, but I made sure that I got a microphone that worked with that. So, I would love feedback on the sound. I can alter the sound slightly in editing, so if I need to raise the volume or make any adjustments there, please feel free to leave constructive criticism because I do always appreciate that. I don't pretend to know what I'm doing at all. So any feedback is welcome. I am struggling the most probably with figuring out my lights and all of that. I figured out kind of early on that I won't be able to rely on natural lighting. There's just no good place in my house for that. So I bought lights. I bought 3 different kinds. And I wound up turning almost all of them off. So my videos are probably going to look vastly different from one another for a little while. It's also just getting used to where to look and all of that. I did set up my computer to act as a monitor, but I realized that that was way too distracting, and I was looking down the entire time and I couldn't function that way. So I'm definitely going to have to get a few of these under my belt before I ever even dream of trying to put makeup on camera. I know that I'm going to need to figure out the lighting and the setup and how you can even see what I'm doing, and then get the hang of looking at the camera and not making a mess and just the whole nine. Like, I really thought that doing 60 some odd videos on my phone, I would feel somewhat comfortable with this transition, but just seeing my face in this level of clarity is a lot to get used to. So please bear with me, and if you've sat through this video, or frankly, if you've sat through any of my videos, I appreciate you so much. I love you so much, and I hope you're having a fabulous week, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.